Let me take you back to the most chaotic hour of my life. An hour that felt like an eternity. I was trapped in a nightmare, standing behind the bustling kitchen of a high-end restaurant, my heart pounding like a war drum. My family had cornered me into an ultimatum: propose to my bride-to-be with the ring hidden inside a wedding cake or face eternal shame. The clock was ticking. Just 1 hour left before the ceremony, and I was losing my mind. The ring, which I had personally placed inside the cake earlier that day, seemed to have vanished into thin air. "Where is it?" I muttered under my breath, my hands trembling as I frantically tore through layers of frosting and sponge. Panic surged through me like wildfire. I knocked over trays of dishes, their shattering sound echoing through the kitchen like a death knell. Each broken plate felt like another nail in my coffin. The manager's glare told me I'd be paying for this disaster out of my already empty pockets. But none of that mattered. Without the ring, there would be no wedding, no approval from my family, and no future. My chest tightened with every passing second, sweat dripping down my face as desperation consumed me. I was not just searching for a ring. I was fighting for my dignity, my pride, and perhaps even my sanity. As I stood there, covered in cake crumbs and sweat, my world seemed to crumble further when I saw her. Sarah, the waitress who had been quietly serving tables near the kitchen. At first glance, she appeared calm, but something in her eyes betrayed desperation. She was juggling trays with trembling hands, her uniform slightly disheveled as if she hadn't slept in days. Later, I would learn that Sarah was drowning in debt, on the verge of being evicted from her apartment and just one paycheck away from losing everything. But at that moment, all I could see was betrayal. The VIP guest, seated at table 5, the woman everyone assumed was my bride-to-be, kept calling Sarah over with an insidious smirk. "Come here, darling," he purred, his voice dripping with condescension. Each time she approached, he made inappropriate comments about her appearance, even going so far as to grab her wrist once. My blood boiled watching this, but what crushed me more was how casually Sarah handled it, almost like she was used to such treatment. Was this why she needed the money? Had she sold herself out to him behind my back? The thought tore through me like a knife. Then came the final straw. As Sarah leaned down to refill his glass, the man pulled her closer, whispering something into her ear. Her face flushed red, not with embarrassment, but anger. Yet instead of pulling away, she forced a smile, a practiced, hollow smile, and nodded politely. To anyone else, it might have looked professional, but to me, it confirmed everything I feared. They were involved. I stormed out of the kitchen, my fists clenched so tightly they turned white. "How could you?" I spat at her, my voice shaking with rage. Sarah looked up, startled, her tray slipping from her grasp. Plates shattered on the floor, echoing through the restaurant like a gunshot. "What are you talking about?" she stammered, confusion etched across her face. But I didn't listen. All I could see was red. "You think I don't know what's going on?" I hissed, glaring between her and the VIP guest. "Do you have any idea how hard I've worked for today, for us?" My words hung heavy in the air, raw and unfiltered. Sarah opened her mouth to protest, but no sound came out. Instead, tears welled up in her eyes, glistening under the harsh fluorescent lights. In that moment, I felt both victorious and sickened by my own accusations. The weight of betrayal crushed me like a ton of bricks, and I couldn't escape the suffocating darkness that consumed my every thought. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Sarah laughing with that VIP guest, her forced smile etched into my mind like a scar. What hurt most was how easily she seemed to accept his advances, how willingly she played along with his game. But what I didn't know then was the sheer magnitude of the storm Sarah was weathering on her own. The man, whose name I later learned was Victor, wasn't just another wealthy patron throwing around his money. He was a predator who thrived on power. After our confrontation in the restaurant, he cornered Sarah in the staff room, his voice low but laced with venom. "You think you can say no to me?" he sneered, shoving an envelope toward her. Inside were documents detailing her mounting debts, the same debts that had driven her to work double shifts and skip meals. "If you refuse," he continued, "not only will I ensure you're fired, but I'll make sure no one in this city hires you again." His words hit her like a freight train, leaving her paralyzed with fear. But Sarah's struggles didn't end there. A week after the incident, she received news that felt like a death sentence. She had been diagnosed with a serious illness. The medical bills would be astronomical, and without steady income, she faced ruin. Yet, despite everything, she refused to give in to despair or to Victor's demands. She masked her pain behind a facade of resilience, showing up for work each day even as her body screamed for rest. To the outside world, she appeared strong, but inside she was crumbling. Meanwhile, I spiraled into a pit of self-loathing and depression. My days blurred together as I replayed the scene at the restaurant over and over in my head. How could I have misjudged her so badly? Had I been blind to the truth all along? Sleep became elusive, replaced by endless nights spent staring at the ceiling, haunted by guilt and regret. I stopped eating, stopped caring about anything. Even finding the wedding ring felt meaningless now. My friends noticed the change in me, urging me to seek help, but I pushed them away. "You don't understand." I'd snap, my voice hollow. I lost the one person who mattered. What made matters worse was the cruel irony of it all. While Sarah fought to survive both financially and physically, I wallowed in misplaced anger, convinced she had betrayed me. I avoided the restaurant, unable to face her or anyone else. But fate has a way of forcing us to confront our mistakes. One evening, while aimlessly wandering the streets, I stumbled upon Sarah sitting alone on a park bench. Her head was bowed, her shoulders slumped under the weight of unseen burdens. For a moment I hesitated, torn between approaching her and retreating further into my solitude. Before I could decide, a figure emerged from the shadows. Victor. He approached her with the same predatory smirk I'd seen in the restaurant, his tone dripping with mockery. "Still playing hard to get, are we?" he taunted, leaning closer. Sarah stiffened, clutching her bag tightly as if bracing for impact. That's when something inside me snapped. Whatever resentment I harbored toward her melted away, replaced by an overwhelming urge to protect her. Without thinking, I stepped forward, my voice cutting through the tension like a blade. "Leave her alone." The tension between us had reached its breaking point, and the fragile threads holding our lives together began to snap one by one. It started with my abrupt dismissal from the restaurant, a consequence of my reckless behavior during that fateful encounter with Victor. When I stormed into the dining area, demanding he leave Sarah alone, chaos erupted. Plates crashed to the floor, chairs were overturned, and customers scattered in panic as I lunged at him, fueled by rage and desperation. The manager intervened swiftly, his face red with fury. "You're done here," he shouted, pointing toward the exit. "Get out of my establishment." I walked away without protest, humiliation burning through me like acid. For days afterward, I wandered aimlessly through the city streets, feeling like a ghost haunting the ruins of my own life. Every corner seemed to mock me. The bakery where I once bought pastries for Sarah, The park bench where we'd shared quiet moments before everything unraveled. My dreams of proving myself worthy of love felt as shattered as the dishes I used to wash. Without the job, without purpose, I spiraled deeper into despair. The thought of starting over felt impossible, like trying to rebuild a collapsed skyscraper with bare hands. Meanwhile, Sarah faced her own nightmare. Victor hadn't given up on his twisted vendetta. If anything, he grew more vindictive. After learning about her precarious immigration status, he threatened to report her to authorities unless she complied with his demands. "You have 48 hours," he sneered, sliding a document across the table. "Sign this agreement or pack your bags." The paper outlined terms so exploitative they might as well have been written in blood. She stared at it, trembling, knowing full well what signing would mean. Sacrificing her dignity, her freedom, her very soul. But time was running out. With no family to turn to and few friends willing to risk helping her, Sarah prepared to flee the city under the cover of darkness. As she packed her belongings into a single suitcase, memories flooded back. The late-night shifts, the medical bills piling up, the countless times she'd forced herself to smile despite the pain. Each item she folded carried the weight of unspoken sacrifices. Her heart ached not just for herself, but also for me. Despite everything, she still cared deeply, even though she believed I hated her. In those darkest hours, fate intervened in ways neither of us could have anticipated. Late one rainy evening, as I sat on a bridge overlooking the river, contemplating whether ending it all might bring some semblance of peace, Sarah appeared. Drenched from head to toe, clutching her suitcase, she looked both fragile and resolute. "I'm leaving," she said simply, her voice barely audible over the rain. "But I couldn't go without telling you. I never betrayed you." Her words pierced through the fog of my despair, forcing me to confront the truth I'd been too blind and too stubborn to see. Tears streamed down my face as I realized the depth of my mistakes. Here she stood, broken yet brave, while I had wallowed in self-pity and misplaced anger. In that moment, something inside me shifted. If there was any chance left to make things right, I had to fight for it. Not just for her, but for myself. Desperation had driven me to the edge of sanity, and every night after Sarah left, I found myself in a dimly lit dance studio, practicing steps with an intensity bordering on obsession. The mirror reflected not just my movements, but the hollow shell of a man I had become. Someone clinging to the faint hope that maybe, just maybe, if I could prove myself worthy through this one skill, I might win her back. But fate seemed determined to test me further. One evening, as I spun across the floor, lost in the rhythm of the music, I failed to notice a loose cable snaking across the room. My foot caught on it mid-leap, sending me crashing into a nearby bar. Pain shot through my leg as I collapsed onto the cold, hard floor, gasping for air. For a moment, panic gripped me. I was sure I'd broken something vital. Yet as adrenaline coursed through my veins, I realized the injury wasn't severe enough to stop me. It was a reminder. Life doesn't wait for anyone, and neither should I. Weeks later, our paths crossed again under circumstances no one could have predicted. A fire erupted in the very restaurant where we first met. Flames licked hungrily at the walls, smoke choking the air as chaos unfolded. I had returned there earlier that day, hoping to find some closure, only to be confronted by the inferno instead. Amidst the screams and stampeding feet, I spotted Sarah rushing toward danger rather than away from it. Her face was streaked with soot, her eyes wide with determination as she shouted instructions to panicked patrons. "Get out! Follow me!" she yelled, her voice cutting through the cacophony like a lifeline. Without hesitation, I joined her, adrenaline overriding any lingering doubts or fears. Together, we formed a human chain, guiding trapped guests through the thickening haze to safety. At one point, a ceiling beam collapsed, narrowly missing us both. Sarah grabbed my arm, pulling me back just in time. Our eyes locked for a fleeting second, and in that moment, I saw something I hadn't allowed myself to believe still existed between us: trust. Despite everything, despite the pain and misunderstandings, she trusted me, and somehow, I knew I could trust her too. As the last person stumbled out of the burning building, exhaustion overtook us. We sank to the ground outside, coughing violently as fresh air filled our lungs. Sarah turned to me, tears streaming down her face. "Why did you come back?" she whispered hoarsely. "I thought you hated me." My heart clenched at her words. Reaching out, I gently wiped away her tears. "I don't hate you," I admitted, my voice breaking. "I never did. I was just lost. But seeing you here, risking your life for others, it reminded me of who you really are. And who I want to be." The fire trucks arrived, their sirens wailing, casting red and blue lights across the charred remains of the restaurant. As firefighters worked to extinguish the blaze, Sarah and I sat side by side, watching the scene unfold. There was no grand declaration, no sweeping romantic gesture. Just two people finally letting go of their pride and fear to embrace the truth. In saving others, we had saved ourselves. Through the ashes of our past mistakes, a new beginning emerged, one built on mutual respect, understanding, and love. Our love story became a battleground, not just between us, but against the world. The fire at the restaurant had forged an unbreakable bond between Sarah and me, yet it ignited a storm of opposition neither of us could have anticipated. When my family discovered that I, their well-bred son, who once washed dishes to prove his worth, was now pursuing a waitress with no fortune or status, they were livid. "You're throwing your life away," my mother screamed, her voice trembling with fury. My father refused to speak to me altogether, his silence heavier than any words. Society whispered behind our backs, some mocking my fall from grace, others pitying Sarah for being entangled with someone deemed unworthy by their standards. But the backlash wasn't one-sided. Sarah's struggles cut even deeper. Her immigrant background and precarious legal status made her an easy target for judgment. "She's using you," friends warned me, planting seeds of doubt in my mind. Meanwhile, Sarah faced relentless pressure from her own community. "You'll ruin your reputation," her aunt scolded during a tense phone call. "He'll never accept you for who you are." Each word felt like a dagger piercing through her resolve, yet she stood firm, unwilling to let fear dictate her future. The challenges didn't stop there. Victor, ever the vulture circling above, saw an opportunity to exploit our vulnerability. He threatened to expose Sarah's immigration issues unless she agreed to sever ties with me permanently. "Choose him, and you'll lose everything," he sneered, his voice dripping with malice. For days, Sarah wrestled with the decision, torn between protecting herself and fighting for us. Watching her endure this torment broke something inside me. A realization that true love isn't about grand gestures or fairy tale endings. It's about standing together when the odds feel insurmountable. Despite the mounting obstacles, we chose to fight. Not just for each other, but for the belief that love transcends societal constructs. We attended counseling sessions to navigate our differences, worked tirelessly to build trust, and leaned on allies who believed in our union. Slowly, cracks began to form in the walls erected by prejudice. My parents, witnessing Sarah's resilience and kindness firsthand, softened their stance. She may not come from wealth, my mother admitted reluctantly, but she has a heart bigger than anyone I know. In time, Sarah and I came to understand what truly matters. People aren't defined by their titles, bank accounts, or social standing. They're defined by their actions, sacrifices, and capacity to love. Our journey taught us that while society often measures success in material terms, real fulfillment comes from embracing authenticity and vulnerability. On the day we finally exchanged vows, not in a lavish ceremony, but in a small garden surrounded by those who genuinely supported us, we weren't just celebrating marriage. We were celebrating the triumph of love over adversity, of courage over conformity. Some people leave scars, others leave lessons. Burn and reborn stories that break you, then rebuild you.